Hello everybody, my name is Phancy and I'm here to introduce you to Phancy Talk Show, a show that will be all about creating awareness on different issues that we encounter in life. As we all know, life does not come with a manual, and hence we encounter so many things, among them mental health issues, parenting issues, name them. And so this talk show is inspired by bringing experts on different fields to come and give us insights on how we are going to handle these issues. Karibu sana. Don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe. Hello guys, and welcome to Phancy Talk Show. Today we have an amazing guest who will be taking us through childhood traumas and the impact they have on adulthood. So karibu sana as we explore the topic. Hello, Carol.
Hi.
It's good to have you.
Yeah, good to see you after a long time.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you can go by introducing yourself first.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Carolyne Gaithuma. I am many things, but the one that has brought me here is I'm a transformation coach and a mental health advocate. Yeah.
Wow. So today we are going to look on childhood traumas.
Yeah.
And the impact they have on adulthood.
Yeah.
So maybe we can start by saying, what are traumas?
So trauma is an emotional response, and there are two words that I like people to understand about trauma.
Okay.
So one, it's a pervasive problem. Pervasive meaning it affects the whole being of a person. It affects you mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So trauma is not something that just, like, if something was to land on your skin, that it will just affect the skin. No, it affects the whole body. It's also brought about by adverse experiences. So adverse, I know these are big words, but adverse is like harmful, something that interferes with your development and with how you are as a person. So that is trauma. So it's an emotional experience, an emotional response to an adverse experience. So it could be something that's life-threatening, or it can be as an experience that is very emotionally distressing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes we deal with people in different spaces.
Yeah.
And we tend to wonder, why is this person acting the way they're acting?
Yeah.
What we call in the layman language, they're not acting their age.
Yeah.
Are these people normally having they're affected by these traumas, or what exactly can we explain this?
So before we go there, let's talk about how trauma affects the body.
Yeah.
Because that's really important for people to understand.
Sure.
So when you go through a very emotionally distressing experience or a life-threatening experience, your body almost takes a snapshot. Your system, your subconscious mind takes a snapshot of that moment.
Sure.
And imprints it in you. So anything, whether it's a smell, a sound, a person, a look, a color, time of day, weather, that looks like that snapshot the mind has taken, it takes you back to that moment. So that's how trauma is. So it creates a snapshot, the mind, and because trauma is about, you can resolve trauma or not resolve it. Most of the people don't know how to resolve trauma. So a lot of traumas are unresolved. So when the mind takes that snapshot and carries that memory, it suppresses the pain that experience brought with it. So instead of you dealing with the pain, you are suppressing the pain. So it means even thought patterns, emotions, habits are formed to keep the pain down so that you don't have to feel it. So some people become numb, some people take on weird habits, some people have certain thoughts about certain things, all in the name of pushing the trauma down. So to your question of how people behave, even those people who are behaving their age are all afflicted by trauma.
Yeah.
There's a German book, a book that was written by a German, and I was told about this by a therapist I saw sometime like 3 years ago. And the book says we all came from dysfunctional families. And because of that, all of us have some trauma in us. And so adverse, experiences in adulthood can cause you to behave a certain way, but sometimes even the childhood traumas cause you to behave a certain way. Yeah.
So the impact of the unresolved traumas is what projects outside.
Yes, and it projects in so many ways, because first of all, we need to understand, for example, if you're talking about childhood trauma, what is childhood trauma? It's different from trauma that I would go through right now, because for me right now, maybe I could go through trauma because of an accident.
Sure.
I could go through trauma because of domestic abuse or relationship trauma. I could go, it's very open for people to see,
broad.
right? It's broad.
Yeah.
But then for children, it's broader, because now here we are talking about emotionally distressing experiences. For a child who fully depends on the adults that are taking care of them, it's a matter of survival. Even the adult who takes care of them coming in angry and shouting at them, that's an emotionally distressing experience. Why? Because the child begins to wonder, am I going to be fed tomorrow?
Yeah.
You see, it's life-threatening to them, even though to you it might not look like a trauma.
They get insecure.
What happens is, remember, the mind of a child is focused on them surviving.
Yeah.
And what is required for them to survive? They need to be fed, they need to be clothed, they need to be washed, they need to be sheltered, they need to be loved. And their subconscious mind knows that if I am loved and accepted, then I will be fed, I will be clothed, all of those things. So now, if a child goes through an experience where their mind is questioning, am I loved enough? Am I accepted? Then that means also the mind is concluding, I might not be fed. You see? So it becomes life-threatening, because what if I'm not fed? What if I'm not sheltered? I'll die.
Sure.
So for children, these experiences mean life and death. And that's why it's so imprinting on them. And so for children, what they do to deal with the pain of not being loved, the pain of not being accepted, is that they start to form certain characteristic traits. So people become people pleasers, people become manipulative, people become, all those things. They try to become what their caregivers need them to be so that they can be fed. So it's really important for us to understand that as children, the kind of trauma that we went through might not be out here for all of us to see. But how you know that it was a trauma, it's because there's patterns in your life, And apart from behavior, we need to look at the cycles in our lives, because there are things that happen repeatedly, but we don't notice them.
We've actually gone to my next question that I was just about to ask you.
Yeah.
Is it possible for somebody to know they are traumatized, they're having the childhood traumas, or it takes another person to notice you have childhood traumas?
So it can go two ways. And the first one is, if you notice, for you to notice, you must have a high level of self-awareness. And you must also be very authentic and vulnerable with yourself, to tell yourself the truth of your life, because only you know your life from the inside. Yeah. But then there's also conversations you can have with a professional like me or a therapist, and they will bring you to that awareness. They'll let you see that you have some trauma that you're dealing with. But then what I say as adult is, you don't have to know consciously.
Yeah.
You just need to know what you want your life to be about, and be ready to go through whatever it is you need to go through to get your life to where you want it to be. Because we spend a lot of time in denial that, because we don't want to see our parents differently than we see them, because as children we have to idealize our parents. We have to see them as demigods for us to survive. Otherwise, how do you think your child would survive if they think you don't have rent? they'll be devastated.
It's true.
They'll be totally devastated. So they'd rather see mom knows everything, mom has everything, mom can do anything. They'd rather see you like that so that they survive.
They see you as a hero.
Exactly. But then what happens is when we grow up, we also do not allow ourselves to drop that and see our parents as human beings going through life like us, who could probably have made mistakes with us. So because we don't want to remove that veil of seeing them as heroes and perfect, we do not want to acknowledge our pain.
Wow.
Because if we acknowledge our pain, then what will it mean? That mom was not who I always thought she was?
Yeah.
I'm not ready to face that.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of a book I read, and it was clearly saying we live in two worlds. There is the real world and the imaginary world.
Yeah.
And most of us want to live in the imaginary world.
Yeah.
We don't want to come to the authentic side of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think this is a catalyst to our traumas, to our childhood traumas and other traumas that we are suffering, because there's a picture we want to create.
Exactly. Even for ourselves, there is a picture that we want. That is a trauma response, actually. The imaginary world that we create is a trauma response. It's a way of suppressing the pain. Because if I don't see it, then I don't have to deal with it. If I don't feel it, then I don't have to deal with it. So I'd rather create this idea. And you can see how all of us were traumatized by the school system.
Yeah.
But a lot of us say the way that we were beaten, and that's why we are the way we are. Like respectful, disciplined. Isn't that what people say?
But we are very traumatized by the
Exactly,
way.
but we don't want to see that as abuse. We keep saying it's discipline, we keep giving it a good name, we keep saying, and that's why it propagates, you know?
Yeah.
How else can we impart discipline in children without harming them physically? We are not asking ourselves that question because we've never acknowledged to ourselves that we were abused by our teachers and our parents.
True.
But that is the truth. And facing the truth doesn't mean making anybody a villain or making anybody bad. It's just seeing things as they are, period. Because even them, they are products of the system. You know, I once had a conversation with my mom, and I was talking about this very topic. I was talking about trauma, and I told her, you know, some of the things that you guys did to us, you know, we had that conversation, and I was like, you know, you are also a product of this, and you need to also allow yourself to see that it was an injustice to you. Because as long as the reason why you did it to us is because you thought it was done to you and it was a good thing. And it was liberating for her because she told me of an incident which was very like heartfelt. In fact, we cried of how she was beaten by her mom until she broke her leg.
No.
You know, and she had never seen it the way she did before the conversation.
Yeah.
And when you understand, because sometimes understanding your trauma and facing it allows you to develop empathy for even those who you believe have traumatized you, because they are also victims. We are just propagating what we have. If I told you to give me what's in your pocket, you'll give me what's in your pocket, not what's in your house.
True.
So hurt people hurt. You know, people are hurting others because they are hurting inside of themselves. And the only way we can stop the cycle is if we face our own hurts. Like sit with yourself and say, this is the real story of my life. This is how I felt. One of the things that's really important when it comes to trauma, what makes it resolve trauma is because you bring it up and you look at it and you feel. You see, what happens when we grow up, we no longer see ourselves the way we saw ourselves as children.
Yeah.
And so we are talking of our experiences as if we are removed from it.
And we are still part of the
We
experience.
are still part of the experience. So if you look at a time when you have been whooped nicely by your teacher or your father, you look at it and you say, yeah, I was whooped, you make a joke out of it. You never enter that moment to actually feel how this size of you felt being hit and thrown about by somebody 3 times your size. You never get yourself into that situation. Why? Because you got traumatized. You don't want to go there. And what does that do to you? It keeps you in cycles of pain, and you don't understand why you keep being in the same cycles. And this is what I'll tell you about what trauma looks like to adults. It looks like a series of similar experiences in relationships. It's like you're dating the same guy,
Yeah.
with a different body.
Yeah.
Or the same girl in the same body.
Yeah.
Cycles. You have this conflict that follows you everywhere. It comes up as conflict with your mom, as conflict with your friends, as conflict with your teacher, as conflict with your boss. It's repeating. But you're blinded, you don't see the cycle. But somebody else looking at you will tell you, I can see that cycle.
Yeah.
But then we don't see ourselves. Everything is hidden from us. But it's very open to everybody else. You know?
You know, I'm just thinking about dysfunctional families. I think this is where childhood trauma is really being bled.
Yeah.
And, you know, my heart bleeds for children.
Yeah.
Because actually, children don't have much they can do. But we inflict pain, and sometimes they don't know how to process it. They don't know how to go through. They don't just understand.
Yeah.
And you know, in the society we are living, we've normalized dysfunctional families, separation, divorces, you know, abuses at home. How can we protect our children? Because again, now I feel trauma, you know, we are passing trauma to our kids every day.
Yeah.
From home. Home is no longer a safe space.
Yeah.
School is no longer a safe space.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can we do?
There are very few people who can say home has been a safe space, if they are to be really honest. If they were to get back into their small bodies and say how safe they felt in their house, few people. And it doesn't have to have been violent, because trauma is not just caused by violence, it's caused by negligence. It's caused by poverty, lack of the things that you need.
Basic needs.
Yeah, there's poverty. There's trauma that's caused by poverty.
Yeah.
There's trauma that is caused by the parents fighting among themselves, or even if they're not physically fighting, there's some emotional tension that is traumatic to a child. So when you ask how we can avoid this, I look at it the way I would ask you, can you avoid your child from falling? Like, can you prevent your child from falling?
It is inevitable.
Yeah, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. So the question then arises, then what can we do? If my child is gonna fall, so I have 3 kids. So my second born is very athletic. And I once took him to his first class on rollerblading. And I remember it was a very profound moment for me, because I expected, you know, you expect if you go for a swimming class, you're taught how to swim. If you go to a basketball class, you're taught how to do basketball. But that whole class, it was a whole hour class of how to fall.
Wow.
That was profound for me. That the first thing that they teach you is how to overcome the inevitable challenge that you're going to face if you have decided this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
So the priority for us needs to be, how can we equip our children to resolve trauma? Because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And it's really teaching them how to face pain by us learning it. Because we've never learned how to face pain. We learn how to whitewash it, to reframe it, to avoid it, you know.
Avoidance especially, I think that's where...
Yeah, exactly. And now when we talk about dysfunctional families, families are created within a society, within a system. If the system is dysfunctional, 100% families are going to be dysfunctional. Because what causes dysfunction is the relationship between these people who are starting the family.
Yeah.
So these 2 people are starting a family and they have unresolved trauma. How are you going to get a functional family from there?
Totally impossible.
So you see, it's like the case of a chicken and an egg. because these are the children who are children the other
the
day.
cycle continues.
Yeah. So I say right now, the movement that we should be having is the movement of healing.
Creating awareness.
We create awareness that healing is important, that healing means coming back to who we really are, that healing means shedding all the defense mechanisms that we have created along the way to protect ourselves from pain. That healing means developing skills to face and deal with pain, you know. So I think that's how we can protect our children.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very profound and very insightful, because I think trauma is a big challenge, and as you're saying, we cannot run away from them.
Yeah.
They can be inflicted by anyone.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, even siblings, they can hurt, you know, we can hurt each other at that level.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it has grown to be a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so even at workplace, you look at some of these people you're dealing with, and sometimes you're heartless, not knowing you are dealing with an ill person with unresolved issues.
Yeah.
So
all of us, and it's
actually, we cannot say we are immune.
We are not immune, and we are not, it's just the degree of illness. So you cannot say you are not ill. It's the degree of illness that varies. So you've mentioned siblings, and I remember there's some work that I do with families. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, talking about the dysfunctionalities in families and how it shows up. So in dysfunctional families, so people in the family take up different roles to cover the dysfunction. So what happens is, two people come together, they are deficient themselves, because I don't know how to be loved, I don't know how to be accepted, and so I cannot do the same for the other person. I'm expecting the same from the other person, and so I'm emotionally unavailable to this person, or sometimes I'm abusive to this person. And so what happens is, because that is a destabilization of the family, just because of all these deficiencies within the two people. If you get kids, then you start creating a family that has different roles.
Yeah.
So there'll be somebody who will be the scapegoat of the family. So he's the one who takes on the problems of the family. People would rather deal with him or her than the real problem
itself.
There'll be the lost sheep, the one who, mteja all the time, no one has talked to them, you don't know where they live.
Yeah.
That's a lost child. Then you find there's another one who is called the mascot, the one who is the joker of the family, because they use the jokes and the humor to diffuse the tension in the family.
Yeah.
You'll find the patient. The patient of the family is the one who takes on all your pain and is so heavy laden by this pain that either they get sick or they get addicted. And they're the ones who, you've seen these people who come to family gatherings, they are so high, they're telling you the things you don't want to hear, and people are trying to shut them up.
To shut them,
because they can see what the problem is, they can feel all your emotions. Because another thing that people need to know is that a family unit is so intricately tied together, whether your relatives are dead or alive. You're so connected, it's as if you're under the same emotional skin. So whatever one of you is going through, all of you are going through. And that's why you wonder sometimes, why am I feeling this way? Why am I being affected like this? It's because someone else in your family unit is going through something.
So there's a deep connection.
There's a very deep connection. And so when one of you is destabilized, all of you are destabilized. And it was built like that, even biologically and biochemically, to ensure survival. Because way back when we were primitive human beings, we needed each other to survive. Minus one of us meant we could die. And even you breaking away from that unit was very hard, because how are you going to survive in the bush alone?
Impossible.
Exactly. So that's why even being accepted by these people and loved by these people, to your primitive mind, it's a matter of life and death. And that's why you find people are traumatized by not being accepted and loved by their family. Because then it means I cannot live my life to fulfillment because I have a deficiency that I need to fulfill first. And you keep looking for people all around to come and fill this gap that your family hasn't filled.
So, Carol, is it possible to reparent the child that was traumatized? Can we reparent these childhood traumas?
Yeah. And this is a call that I give to everyone that I talk to. This is your duty as an adult, is to take over the role of the parent and become the parent that you needed. But you cannot become the parent that you needed if you're not willing to see the parent you had. Because how are you going to know what mistakes were made?
Yeah.
And correct them?
Yes.
You know? So you have to remove the veil. Don't be afraid of yourself. Don't be afraid of facing your truth. You know, I know that's the most difficult thing. Let me tell you, people don't fear other people. That's just a cover-up. We fear ourselves. Nitajiambia nini? Nitajiona aje? You know? And that's why we have all this drama and all these things to cover up the way we really see ourselves. So remove it. You know, and that's why I tell people to get a professional, because you need the skills to cope with what you see.
Absolutely.
You need the skills to cope with what you see inside of yourself. And when you don't have the skills, then this is a danger. You re-traumatize yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, and if a person is not ready to walk that journey, they're not ready to accept they're traumatized, they have childhood traumas, they have unresolved issues, and they're not ready to take the path of, confronting the truth and working towards healing. How do those around this person, how can they handle this kind of a person? Because I'm thinking he's all about bringing bad energies to everybody. How can we handle such a person?
This is a question I've been asked a lot of times, especially by when I'm working with retreat centers and rehabs, because sometimes you find that people are really concerned about this person and this person is like niko sawa, and yet they are affecting the other people. So what I say is this: please do the work yourself. Do the work yourself. I don't know if you've ever bought land, and somewhere in the Bundus, and you forgot where it was. Or you went and you found like there are 5 plots over here, and you don't know which one is yours. How would you find out which one is yours? If you had like 5 plots, you know it is here somewhere.
A survey?
Before that?
The beacons, maybe. You try to trace the beacons.
And the beacons do not only demarcate yours, but they demarcate the other person's. So if there's a beacon that has your number on that's missing, you can trace your piece of land based on the other ones around you who are clear which their land is, right? So it's the same thing. When all of you guys create boundaries, emotional boundaries, mental boundaries around someone like that, they start to see that this is my space. I'm crossing there, I'm crossing there. It's like you begin to teach them how to honor boundaries. And then you're not so triggered yourself. Because what happens is when you are dealing with somebody who has this, trauma that he's relieving in the form of habits and behaviors and all that, if you yourself have not dealt with your stuff, even your stuff will be in that equation. So the thing is, if you want to reduce a huge bucket of anything, si mnachota tu. You chota yours and go deal with it. The other person chotas theirs, because a lot of the times we want to make people villains. We want to make people like you're the bad one, but we are in this together. So what's my contribution? So maybe my contribution is entertaining you and bringing you in my space. So I can withdraw that contribution and be like, I don't want to be in your space anymore. If you don't want to do the work, then I'm out.
Yeah.
you know, or, you know, your contribution is that you continually engage this person. Especially when you see somebody is going in the wrong direction, we have this idea that he's going in the wrong direction and so they are wrong. We need to also understand we don't know people's directions. How do you know he's going in the wrong direction?
If you can know they are going into the wrong direction, then it means you are aware. You are aware.
But you see, you're aware of yourself.
Yes, not about the
not
other
about
person.
them.
So you can only work on you.
On you, because even them, you don't know where God is leading them. Maybe you're saying that's the wrong direction, but it's actually where God wants them to go. Yeah, and then you become toxic to them because you're judging them.
Yeah.
And they respond to your judgment, and then you say they're toxic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in the recent past, we saw a very disturbing video going on.
Yeah.
Of a certain DJ and the wife. And people are really furious about the DJ.
Yeah.
Now, how would you let such a thing happen? Well, to me, it also doesn't sound humane. It looks really off.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I can even stand to see my enemy die, you know, without me trying to save a life.
Yeah.
And I was asking myself, for this lady to reach here, you know, to an extent of knowing I'm harming myself and they go ahead. Of course, there was some mental issues.
Yeah.
But also for this DJ, to just watch somebody take their life and record, it doesn't sit well. It doesn't sit well.
Yeah.
So I tend to ask myself, could these two people be having, you know, different kind of traumas or dealing with different issues in their lives?
First, that was a very, even that video itself traumatized some people.
Yes.
You know, like some people were like, and this is the thing that people need to understand, that the system is created to traumatize people. Because the more traumatized a people are, the more traumatized a nation is, the more governable they are. Because trauma removes you from your place of power. Trauma makes you defensive. Trauma makes you afraid. Trauma discontinues your progression towards your potential. So people also need to have boundaries about what they watch. Because I'm seeing people asking, send me the video, you know, send me a link. I'm like, do you know what you're exposing yourself to? Like this curiosity, you're taking yourself somewhere where you might not be able to remove yourself from.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, there is usually the idea that something has to be right or wrong. There has to be a good person and a bad person. So now we found the bad person. So that one must have been the good person. Or now we found the good person. This other one must be the bad person.
There's a blame game.
Yeah. And we always see things in black and white. Life is not black and white. Life is really not black and white.
Yeah.
Just look at yourself. Look at your life. You are both good and bad at the same time in equal measure. So you need to understand that. So when it comes to this particular incident, I see mental illness, because I see that somebody committing suicide is clearly not well. So anybody that commits suicide is not mentally well, because in your good mental faculties, you would not take your own life.
Yeah.
And people need to understand mental health is not just about feeling bad and feeling down and feeling gloomy. Mental health is about the thoughts that are running in your mind. They are irregular, they are non-realistic, they are, that's where the illness is, in your thinking. So even the idea that I'm going to drink poison in front of you, that thinking in itself shows sickness. The DJ, I could also say that he's also a candidate.
Yeah.
Because that level of lack of empathy and lack of goodwill can only come from also him maybe going through the trauma of being with someone mentally ill, because this is what I've noticed. I was mentally ill myself, and I was wondering what could my ex-husband's experience have been dealing with me. Well, I was not even aware that I was mentally unwell. And even when I got unwell, to the point, because I also attempted suicide 3 times, and one time I attempted suicide in his presence, though he did not know what I was doing. I can imagine that also gets you to a place, you know?
You're also traumatizing him.
You're also traumatizing him. And then the other thing is this, that this person, I have been depressed, so I'm talking from experience.
Yes.
Depression is very manipulative. And it's like you're sucking somebody dry of their energy. You want their attention. You want them to say something. You want them to need you. You want them to show you something, and they are not. So you go to the extremes to get them to react the way you want them to react. And I would not be surprised if this is something she had done severally. And so now he was like, I have to record you because people don't believe me when I tell them.
Yeah.
You see? But then because you have been so numbed by being in these experiences over and over again, you've lost your empathy along the way. So you're like, this is just another drama. And even when you're supposed to react and be like, this is not the usual drama because she's actually writhing in pain, let me take her to hospital.
It's late.
You're late because you're also paralyzed.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
You have gotten into the space because it's like you guys are dragging each other to hell.
Effortlessly.
Exactly. And you see now, I see a lot of people judging, but on so many levels, this is what we do with each other.
It was a norm.
Even in social media. How many times do you drag other people to hell because of what you yourself have gone through, because of what you're afraid of, because of what you're judging them for? We are all doing the same thing to each one of us, you know? So we need to see things as they are, and it's not their story, it's our story. All of us,
We own it.
we need to own the story. And you see, the thing is this about that particular relationship. When it comes to trauma, people lose themselves, and so they are not able to establish boundaries, because remember, we are deficient. I want love and attention. And this person has shown me love and attention, so I know he can show me. So I'm gonna be there waiting. Like
No
the way
matter
you
what.
wait at a dry tap because it was running water yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
You stay there, eroding each other, and really not understanding what is really going on. When you start to see that this is why am I so attached to this person being like this to me? Why am I feeling so needy of this person's attention, affection, and love? Then you can go get the help that you need, because that's how it begins. It begins with, I need you. Those things you hear in the telenovela. I need you. I want you. You are mine.
We are there thinking it's a love language.
It's not. It's not.
We are there thinking we are being romantic.
It actually has a name. It's called D-Love.
What is
There's
D-Love?
D-Love and there's B-Love. D-Love is deficiency love, deficient love.
I want you to
the
feel
love that I want to give you so that you can give it back to me. Because I am not loving you for who you are. I'm loving you so that you can do the same to me, because I need it from you. So I'm deficient, I need it from you. And because I don't trust who I am to get it, just the way I am, I'm going to be who you want me to be.
That must be exhausting.
But isn't that what we are all doing?
That's what we are doing, clearly. And it's exhausting, by the way.
Yeah.
Until you're on the other side,
Yes.
that's when you feel so much.
Because be-love, on the other hand, is about, I love because that's who I am.
Yeah.
And you see, be-love is being love. I am being that which I would desire from anyone else. And being love has no aggressiveness, has no possession. Because if I am being love, I don't mute it when I meet Phancy. I am still love when I meet Phancy, when I meet whoever. So what difference it makes is what experience I want to create with you and with this one and with this one. But love is not negotiable.
Yeah.
Because I am love. But D-love, on the other hand, is love me and me only.
No.
Don't love any, don't even smile, don't even seem like you can be happy with your boys, or I'm the only source of your happiness.
Wow.
And that's what gives me fulfillment. And if you don't do that, then I start becoming like a lion. You know, I can attack you for the smallest thing.
Everything triggers.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a set of people, and these are teachers. I tend to think teachers must be very traumatized people. And they suck it from our children, because kids report to the teachers everything happening at home.
Yeah.
Mama alichapwa, mama alitusi dad. You know, everything.
Yeah.
So can they get into a point, they get so intoxicated that even instead of being problem solvers, okay, instead of them being a safe space for these children, they will pass this to so many other kids that will follow suit.
Oh yeah, because one other thing that we need to understand is when we are dealing with trauma, it's like a dance. I will attract into my life that which will bring the traumas to the surface. So even with the teachers, they will get triggered by the children who trigger their trauma. Because even the teachers themselves are traumatized.
Yeah.
And most of them have not resolved these traumas. So sometimes children will go with stories to them about things they have gone through that they went through, and they'll be triggered.
Yeah.
You see how the system is working? Like all of us are triggering each other, because you cannot be in somebody's space if they have not attracted you or you have not attracted them. So what is bringing you guys together? If you have unresolved trauma, that trauma is bringing you guys together.
Yeah.
Why? Because God is very merciful. He wants you to resolve it. And the only way to resolve it is for you to see it.
Yeah.
But most of the time when we see it, we are like, ni yako, ni wewe.
Me, I'm not there.
Yeah.
Me, I'm
So
not
when a teacher
traumatized.
like that is triggered, then what do? And they don't know how to face the pain. They offload it on the children. But it's their trauma. It's not the children's trauma. It's their own trauma. Because somebody who has done the work and is a teacher will take the opportunity to help the child, one, self-regulate so that they are able to deal with the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can we create awareness? Because I think this is where the work is. How can we make people accept?
Yeah.
Being traumatized is not a sin.
Yeah.
Okay? Being vulnerable is very much okay. We take vulnerability to be for the weak.
Yeah.
But I always say it's for the mighty and strong.
Yeah. It's actually a strength.
It's actually a strength.
Yeah.
So how can we make people to know it is okay? You went through that. You're not the first one, but if you can accept, you can be helped out.
Yeah. I think first thing is we need to have real conversations. You know, we've been doing small talk for years,
Yeah.
for ages.
Yeah.
You meet people, you're hanging out. 3 days down the line, you know nothing about them. You
They
just
are in
know
a
the cars
cocoon.
they love, you know the food they like to eat, the places they've been to,
Yeah.
the latest music. People are not talking. We have learned the art of avoiding to talk while looking like we are talking. And I saw a clip by Janet Bogwa, and it was really profound. And she was like, we need to ask each other real questions. Questions like, how is your heart?
I saw that.
You saw that,
I
right?
saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like,
How are you doing? How are you feeling?
exactly, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
What's your biggest challenge this month? You know, what's your biggest dream this month? Let's learn how to ask questions that actually allow people to remove their mask. And the only way we can do that is if we ourselves are ready to have those conversations. I was hanging out with a couple of friends this past weekend, and I remember one of them saying, because at some point people are splitting. So those ones were like, let's go there. Us guys were like, no, let's remain here. One of them said, I'm going to remain here because this is where we talk about real stuff.
Wow. Wow.
And the whole time we were talking about, you know, what's the biggest struggle you've gone through this year? You know, why is it hard for you to ask for help? Is it, if it is, you know, those kind of questions.
The candid questions.
Exactly, because that is really how we are going to even see that we are not the only ones going through what we are going through. You don't have to wait to watch strangers on a show like this to have this conversation. Go have these conversations with your friends, with your family. Every time I'm with my mom, we talk about real stuff. You know, what are your fears? Like, what are you crossing your fingers about?
Yeah.
What are you excited about? What's a mistake you think you've done this year? You know, how are you going to rectify it? Which areas of your life do you feel you're not taking responsibility for? What is making you feel helpless? You know, those kind of questions. Ask each other those questions. Have those conversations. Because then you're going to have a more rewarding and a more fulfilling life. You're going to heal as you have these conversations.
One of the challenges I'm seeing in our society lately, even friendships are not thriving. You know, the togetherness that were there, the honesty in these friendships, actually even our home level. You know, the way you knew my sibling got me, my mom got me. There's so much toxicity in these levels. And so I feel like people are not able, you know, to be free to express themselves. But what I keep on telling, one of the secrets that I learned, find a therapist. Go to somebody you can pour out your heart without holding back. Talk what you feel. Somebody who's not even judgmental. Somebody who will, you know, pay that 3,000, 5,000. Get somebody to listen to you. Vent properly in a safe space. Because also we find people venting in wrong places. In this era of social media. Somebody will take her phone or his phone, they vent and they will not get solution. So at the end of it all, you end up being injured. So how can we, I really don't know how to tell people like therapy is the best thing. It should be self-care. I call it part of my self-care actually. Because you can be traumatized by what you experienced. You know, what you've gone through in life, but all this need healing in a space that is safe. I don't know how we are going to tell people it is very okay to go to therapy, and especially our men. Men, that breed of humans. I have like 3 men who I have seen this year, and the challenge that I had from them, and this is something that I also want to invite the female practitioners in this field to consider. Because there's a way to talk to men and there's a way to talk to women. In this huge society, we have been pitted against each other. There's a victim and there's a villain. And the men being seen as the villain are already burdened by the idea that they are wrong, that they are not doing enough. That they are not, you know, already that's a burden. So do you think he wants to come and hear that in a therapy session? Because that's just gonna cement that. It will rubber stamp what
Exactly. So, and this is what I tell men. If you feel that you are not open to therapy, get a coach. Because the 3 guys that I saw this year, they were like, one of them was actually a pilot, and he was like, this is not how I expected this to go. And he was like, I was expecting to talk about my problems and what has happened and, you know, where I've done wrong. And I was like, that is not what coaching is about. Coaching is about your potential. Whatever experience you have had is a clue about where your potential is. So can we look at it through the lens of your potential? Even if it's a mess up you did, how is that directing us to your potential? You know, how more can you be responsible? How more can you be a leader? How more can you be empathetic and self-aware, you know? So if you don't have a coach or a therapist in this era, and you are, especially those people who are above 28 years old, please, you're doing yourself an injustice. Yeah. If you can't pay for a coach or a therapist, there are free resources. Phancy will put them down there. You know, there are free resources. Befrienders, I'm sure befrienders, you can just go. It's a toll-free number. It's free. You are anonymous. They don't know you. Talk. Have a conversation, you know. But don't think that you can do this life alone. We are advancing as a race, as a human race. We are advancing at a very fast rate. And even your mind needs to expand at that rate. You need to get beyond the things that are challenging you so that you can do that which brought you here. Because you have a huge purpose in front of you. And you're just being held back by the traumas and the stuff that you're refusing to deal with. Because you probably don't think that you should. But you should. Yeah.
Wow, we are hiding our pain in so much. Drinking, you know, so many things.
Yeah.
We've taken up a lot of things just to hide our pain.
Yeah.
Because I think we are more scared on how the world will view us than being authentic.
Yeah.
And that's where the full satisfaction, contentment is.
Exactly.
So I think what I would love to hear, how do we handle our traumatized children? How can we handle our traumatized children? Because of an incident that happened to them, and I'm a mother here, you know, maybe as a result of a dysfunctional family, as a result of something they went through, and it traumatized them.
Yeah.
Even as I consider taking them to therapy, at home, how can I help this 9-year-old, 5-year-old, 2-year-old not to grow in this pain?
Yeah. The first thing is we need to stop assuming that children don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
We also need to stop assuming that they are not processing it. You know, you go through a divorce, for example, or a separation, and you say nothing to your children. And they are just being moved from this house to this house. They are just being told, go to this person, come back home, you know, transferred of, you know, schools or whatever it is. You are leaving them out of the picture. The first thing is that you need to engage them. And I know I've said this a couple of times, but first of all, deal with your pain so that you're not using your children to offload, because that's another form of abuse. You know, when you as an adult lean on your children emotionally, that's abuse, and it affects them when they grow up. So go deal with your pain, go deal with your emotions, and then come back and hear them out. Talk to your children in a way that they are able to understand. A 2-year-old will understand things differently, a 9-year-old will understand differently, a 12-year-old differently, but have the conversation. Want to find out how are they feeling, how are they processing, what are they thinking. And until you have dealt with your pain, you're going to be defensive when they start saying things about you. And then they'll shut down. So give them that permission and that safe space to say whatever it is they need to say about what it is that is going on in their life. Because when you do that, then they'll not press it. It will not be trauma.
They will start.
It will be resolved. It will resolve itself, you know.
But I'm wondering, how do you tell a 2-year-old, a 9-year-old?
It depends.
How do you go to their level to know, you know, how much have they known? Because I tend to think they may not grasp everything.
Yeah.
But they have some clues, something is not right. So how do you go to their level and tell them, you know, this is what is happening.
Yeah.
This is where we are. And because they also entrust us to guide them.
Yeah.
And this is how we move.
Yeah.
I agree with you totally. We have first to work on ourselves. But now again, how do we now help our kids to understand what is happening?
You see, kids are very easy. It's just that we are not present with them. When a child is learning, how do you know your child is ready to eat?
Sometimes they will ask for food. Sometimes they will
start nibbling on things.
Yes.
How do you know your child is ready to walk?
They start crawling and trying to...
Exactly. We are meant to follow their lead. When your child is trying to walk, now you know. They are telling you, now I'm ready. So you help them. Your children have been trying to have this conversation, but you're not present with them. Children, you will not call them to a seminar. Ati, come sit here, we need to talk. That doesn't work with kids. That doesn't work with kids.
Yeah.
But be present with them so that one time they throw this question, it becomes a door for you to explain further, to find out further.
Yeah.
You see? So it happens sporadically. And that's why I'm saying you need to allow them to feel safe and free, and you also need to be present with them. So every conversation you have, you're listening to what they're really saying, to what they're really asking.
You don't listen to answer, you listen to understand.
Exactly.
So that you can
yeah.
give a good answer.
Yeah, so that, and remember, you're not defending yourself, because even when we are dealing with kids, we are on the defense and we want to look a certain way to our children. Don't be defensive, just listen and also ask questions. What do you mean when you say this? You know, Mommy, how do you feel about that? Why did you ask that? Connie, how do you feel? What did you see? You know, yes. But most of us, especially when it's such a touchy topic, we shut them down.
And we start even pushing the blame to the other party that is not there.
Or sometimes you even don't answer them, or you divert the conversation to something else. You know?
And they are noting all these things.
Yeah, and remember, it's your family. So even if you don't want to deal with it, my friend, it will affect you later. I've seen women crying to rehab centers because their children are impossible. They are stealing from them. I don't know, they are beating them. So don't think that you're solving anything by not solving anything.
This has been such a profound conversation. It's a very deep one, and we've taken lots of insight.
Yeah.
But because of time, we may not be able to continue.
Yeah.
So, first of all, we want to thank you for this.
Thank you.
I know we've really opened mind so many people to think through this, and I'm hoping it will not just be a conversation, another entertainment video, but I hope it will be an educational one, one that is creating awareness, so that they can be, people out there can know it is okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And these things, we are not inevitable. As long as we are living, anybody can. Actually, what I've picked, all of us are traumatized.
Yeah.
All of us have childhood traumas.
Yeah.
But how we deal with them is what makes the difference.
Yeah.
So what will be your parting? I want to give you a minute or so, to do your parting shot, and I would love you to tell us the tips of dealing with childhood traumas. What can we do?
Yeah. Thank you. Is to actually get a professional person to help you, so that you can be able to uncover those experiences and go through that pain and transform it, because it's like a diamond in the rough. If you do not go through it, then you miss the point of your life. And personally, the depression that I got many years ago is what uncovered my purpose and my passion, and that's why I'm sitting here. So all of you have a lot of potential lying inside of you in the form of pain. So go to a therapist. The second thing that I would say is journal. Start journaling, And journaling helps you to see the patterns, helps you to see your patterns of thinking, helps you to see the patterns of how you're behaving around people or how people are behaving around you. And the more you become aware of your life, the way it's going, the more you see, the more you have opportunity for transforming it. And thirdly, we are all afflicted by a very, 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 very aggressive and restless mind. Sure. So find a practice that will allow you to calm your mind. Meditation. Just sit in silence. You don't have to be chanting anything or doing anything. Just sit in silence and be with yourself. Go inside of yourself and just experience that inner silence, because the more you silence your mind, the more you're in that still place, the more you tap into a greater power that is able to carry you through your life circumstances.
Wow.
Yeah.
Carol, we are looking forward to have you again. And especially on family systems.
Yeah.
I know there are 5.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to, I did a course on them.
Yeah.
And I'm very passionate about family. So I think it's something I would really love to hear. And also parenting.
Yeah.
You're a powerhouse, my dear. You're a powerhouse.
Oh, thank you. I think the most wounded come out the most fierce.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So we're very thankful for each and every insight that you've given unto us. I'm sure we've touched and transformed people. Because what people are lacking is the information.
Yeah.
And so many people are stuck. They don't know how to go from point A to point B. So if people are keen enough to take this, I'm sure their lives will be transformed.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you very much.
Thank
we
you.
We have a small gift to appreciate you, because this is priceless.
Wow.
So something small. Small because it cannot be compared to what you've given us.
Oh.
Just to say thank you.
But it's huge for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's huge because, oh wow. Guys, it's really amazing.
Just to say thank you.
Thank you.
And we are looking forward to have this session more and more.
Yeah.
Because we are in a mess society.
Yeah. Thank you for the work that you're doing, for the lives that you're touching, for putting out your talent, your gift out here. And I also wish you your own healing as you do this.
Thank you.
Thank
you, dear.
Guys, thank you so much for joining the Phancy Talk Show. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share with your friends, and also join the next episode. Bye.